Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As always, we are glad you are giving us your time. Today, Dr. Taffy and I are excited to introduce the well-renowned Beaullah, the sex therapist. We have been waiting for you for the last 3 weeks. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us more about what you do, who you are, where you're located, all the good stuff.
All the
everything we gotta know.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to say my name, Maskat Mangwana, to everybody wherever you are in the world. Like they said, my name is Beaullah, but for my Zimbabweans, you can call me Fungi side. So I am a licensed clinical mental health therapist by profession, and then my niche is in sex therapy, sex coaching, and then I also got certified as a sex doula. And so I get you from point A to point B, wherever you want to be. So people usually come to me and are like, what do you do? Like, what is that?
Yeah, what exactly do you do, girl?
She needs to go my sessions,
Inquiring minds.
So I'll say this. I don't have sex with anybody, okay? I'm a sex therapist, but I'm not having sex with my clients. So that's one. That's illegal. So that's not what's happening. So people come to see me for different reasons. My niche is specifically for Wakazi Black women, BIPOC women, because our stories are often unheard, our situations are often unresolved.
Yeah.
And nobody really talks about sex in my communities, maybe.
No.
But yeah, I'm Africans, so to my people, I don't go over. So when we talk about this session, people who come to see me are varied. There might be people who want to reconnect with their sensuality and their sexuality. It could be people who want to have better sex. They decide what better sex is. It could be people who have had a baby and they've been disconnected and stuck in the mother role, the wife role. And so now they're like, I want to get in touch with myself. Or people who want to feel more sensual and more sexy. So it varies because I'm a holistic practitioner. So I look at your whole self, your mind, your body, and I also look at your soul, baby, to see what you more.
So, when people say sensual,
yes,
naturally, sensual doesn't necessarily mean, okay, what would be your definition of sensual? Help us there.
Okay, so when you hear sensual, what do you think? What usually comes to mind?
I just feel like you're in touch with your feminine side, you're soft, you're gentle, you're like a flower, you're just, you're sexy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're having sex. It just means, you're just just
Yes, exactly. It's like, what about you?
Yeah, same thing. I guess just I feel like it's I don't know, just a feeling, just that
Ooh la la,
I don't know the words. I don't have the words.
Like it's just
that ooh la la, right?
Yeah.
Tino messed me up because now I really have no words. I'm just like,
yeah. So usually people, when they hear sensuality, they automatically connect it to sexuality. And so when I watch it, I wasn't because whatever that may come to their mind.
Exactly.
But yes, sexuality is about being in touch with your 5 senses, your touch, so smell. Like, yes, what do the flowers? What do they smell like? What do they feel like on your body?
Exactly.
If you want to taste, I don't know if this is tastable, but what does something taste like? If you're drinking nasi noodle, take your drink, your cup of water, and just see
how is it flowing, right?
What does it taste like? What is it, so really engage in all of your 5 senses, and you don't have to have sex. And please let me know when I say sex, I'll mention it. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yes, it doesn't have to include penetrative sex. So you can be sensual without having penetrative sex, without including your genitals. It can just be an experience, and you can be sensual at any time with anybody and anything.
Mm.
Yes. Now, I would like to give a quick disclaimer for the church mothers, for our people that generally feel uncomfortable with the conversation. Here today, the conversation is definitely going to be uncomfortable. So I hope everyone is ready, because these are things in our community, like cultural in Zimbabwe, you don't really address sex. People don't, as far as people know, no one has sex.
You're right.
You know, there are children there.
Right? Our parents, okay, as far as they're concerned,
appeared, right? It's like a taboo word. Like, even saying it right now, I kind of feel a little dirty.
Yeah.
Because you don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not something that we do. And I don't know, maybe in other cultures how it's set up, but I know as a Zimbabwean, it can be a little uncomfortable. Like, those are things that you don't discuss openly, you know?
Right. I completely agree. And it's similar in other cultures as well. It's still a taboo, even though we know people are having it, even though it's used to sell burgers, it's used to sell cars, it's everywhere.
Imagine.
Yet still, because when you talk about it, it gets uncomfortable. Like you said, you feel a little bit dirty, and it's like, well, where did that dirt feeling come from?
Right.
So for you ladies,
in our household, home. It wasn't a conversation we could have with. I could never have a conversation like that with my mother.
And say what?
Right, exactly. Listen, the sex conversation I got was, don't have it until you're married. Don't kiss a boy. Don't let him touch you. Don't have sex, or you'll get pregnant. And that's it. That was end of story. Tatopedza.
Full stop, yeah.
That's sex. We've had a sex talk.
Yeah.
That's it.
Honestly.
So where are we supposed to go from there?
Where do you go? Movies, books, porn? Like, where do you go then?
Friends, that's the only place you can go. You can't talk about it at home. I mean, even with older siblings, it wasn't something you could talk about. I mean, like with my sister and stuff now, I'm 38 years old. So now it's not, I mean, that's an easy conversation now. Okay. But if you ask the 18, 20-year-old me, I couldn't do that.
No, there is absolutely no way. I think I had the first sex conversation with my older sister, who's almost, oh God, okay, I won't say her age, but she's older than me significantly. I am 35. I had the first conversation with her where I could openly say what I wanted to say this year, this 2023. Because at first it's just like, what do I even say? Where do you even begin? Like, how is she gonna feel about it?
Then the language. You're like, what language do I use? Do I use slang because it's my sister? But then slang sounds kind of vulgar. So
and already there's those cultural differences already, because I grew up in America. We're a little more fluid with our language. And then she's in Zimbabwe. So you can only imagine she'll be sitting on the ground. What about tonight, you know? What is this? You know?
Yeah.
That's the type of, but you know, she was very, it's like when you're talking to your bestie, that's the type of conversation we had, because she is my bestie. So we're just kind of like, you know what? At some point you have to have those conversations, because there are things that I'm going to need to know. I might as well find out from you than sometimes coming to someone else who has had wild experiences. Even at the age that we're at, there's some things we still need to learn.
Oh, yeah.
A lot,
learning
actually.
Never ends.
Yeah.
I'm in this field, and every day I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, you could do this. You could do that.
Exactly.
Right.
I am.
But before we get into that, before we get into all of that, right? Let's give people a little background on you and how you came about, what made you feel like, you know what, sex, that's where I want to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. So when I turned 30, I was dissatisfied with my life at this point in time. I had been a good girl, had followed all the rules, checked all the boxes, and I got my master's, 2 bachelor's degree, was not pregnant, like, all of that good stuff. But I was still not happy. And so I'm like, well, what gives? And I realized that I was not free. I didn't feel free. And so I was like, I want to be free in all areas of my life, finances, sensually, sexually. Like, I just want to be free and just have a better time in my 30s as a woman, because they're saying, the 30s is popping. And so I was like, I really want to have a better time in my 30s. And so that's when the sexual healing and awakening journey began for me. I was also curious about sexuality and spirituality. Like, why was it so disconnected? Why the church really would say, like, they made it seem separate. Like, sexuality is over there, spirituality is over there, but yet people were having sex and making babies. And the whole, like, marriage is undefiled. So I'm like, this does not make any sense. So I started to read books. I started to go to my own sex therapy, because I realized there was some stuff that was not making any sense, and there was some disconnection. And so the first batch of books that I read were not helpful. And so then I started to read some books that were written by like Black women over on this side. And then I started to read some other books. And so then and then I read this book called Come As You Are, that was written by Emily Nagoski. And that changed my life. That opened up my eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I had no idea all this information existed. And then I read Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Marie Brown, which talks about pleasure. So the sex books that I was reading were really emphasizing on pleasure, self-exploration. Then I started to have conversations with my friends and asking them questions. And I noticed a trend of women really not having information, not having a space to go to talk about this information, and being unsatisfied with their own lives. And then in therapy, I was also debunking some of the myths and some of the stories that I had about sex, some of my own hang-ups, some of the shame, really, and guilt that I was still carrying. And I didn't realize it was shame. I didn't realize it was guilt, because it shows up differently. And so once I started to unpack and meet people in my living room, shout out to everybody who came to the living room days. And then I realized, oh, like, maybe I could do this thing. And people always seemed excited when I would say, let's talk about sex. They were like, well, you do what? So, fast forward to 2 years ago, I met a sex coach who was a badass, Amina Peterson. And she started to be a mentor to me and a coach to me, and it transformed my entire life. I am not the same person. And I've been through a lot of changes in my life, a lot of transformation. But this sexual healing and awakening journey went deep in my soul, like never, ever. I uncovered a lot of trauma, a lot of wounds that I had ignored. And so in order to be a sensual being, you also have to make way to feel sadness, to feel anger, to feel love, to feel joy, to feel disappointment, to feel all the feelings. And so I really had to move through some deep grief, cried a lot, started to ask questions to my parents and family members about family trauma, like, well, why did so-and-so die? Or why did so-and-so act like this? Because that shit shows up in your growing up self. And so all of that led me to where I am now. And I realized this is something that has liberated me and has brought me so much joy and pleasure. And I really want to share that ne wakazi kumusha kwangu, ne wakazi kunyika kwangu, people in my community, in the States, internationally, because it has transformed me to who I am. Like I feel so empowered than ever before in my entire life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't want to skip this question about your clientele that's in the comments. African Play was asking if your client base is Zimbabwean.
Right now, I don't have any Zimbabwean, so African Play, you can be my first one. I'm based in North Carolina, so I see therapy clients in North Carolina, and then if you're international, you'd be a coaching client. So you can go to rdusexology.com and book a consult. But Zimbabwean women have been on my radar for like a long time because I wanted to really have conversations in international talk and just see where you are, what you need, and then I can bring what you need to you.
We're shy. We're shy.
Yes.
That is very true. But also,
we're shy, so
not
it's
even
hard
being
for
shy.
women.
I think sex has been made to be like a nasty thing,
right?
Like an unclean thing, like it's an enemy. But it's not, and it's not just two people getting together and doing it, and then that's it. There's so much more to it for you to even get to that point. Whatever the connection is, or how you feel, or you know, you hear some people who say when I'm having sex, I freak out, or those traumas you were talking about. Like those are generational things that people don't address, and they will manifest as an adult.
Yeah. So I often ask people, like, even in the chat, you know, who taught you about sex? Like, what did your parents talk about sex? What did they say about sex? So in the chat, let us know what even if they didn't say anything, that's also saying something.
Yeah.
It's either you grow up in a house that's a sex negative house, or you grow up in a house that's sex positive. I've met a handful of one person that did grow up in a sex positive house, but majority of the people that I've met, including myself, grew up in a sex negative home, and that does impact how you view sex, how you show up as a sexual being, especially as a woman.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Tamzi Mendy says we're also scared to ask questions because you feel you will be judged.
But who are you even going to go and ask? Because sometimes even Tetevacho is like a hey.
First of all, I need to have their own issues, okay?
Exactly.
I don't believe in that. Hey, go ask Tete. Tete has her own problems. Maybe even if you can't go to Tete, you don't even know she has a good sex life. How are you gonna ask Tete about sex?
Tete doesn't. That's why she
doesn't. Right. So I mean, I feel like when it comes to Zimbabweans, or maybe it could be Africans, it feels like when we go to Tete and we're asking about sex, the response generally is satisfy your husband, basically.
Yes.
That is it. Nobody is worried about my satisfaction.
No.
Nobody's worried. So Anatete, Anambuya, all those, older people, that's what they're conditioned to tell you, because their elders taught them that, that's what you're supposed to do. Pleasure is for the man.
Ooh, pleasure is for the man.
But
pleasure is for the
sex,
man.
I think in African community, sex is the forefront of what sex is pleasure the man. It doesn't matter what you as the wife are expecting. As long as your man is satisfied, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how do you move from those sort of situations, or even have a conversation with someone when you know what they're gonna say is satisfy your man? That's it. And yes, you should, but in turn, are you also being satisfied in those situations? Right? We're not equals, but we should all be satisfied.
Absolutely, absolutely. We should all be satisfied. And so I would understand why you wouldn't go to Anatete and Anambia, who are, you know, supposed to be the beacons. So that, which brings me to ask this question. Amy Pamaipura, or anybody in the chat, feel free to put the comments in there. Nasi, be a little brave, Nasi. Be a little brave. Ask us some questions, you know, that you normally wouldn't ask. You got me here for free. So please,
right?
ask for,
Exactly.
so go
This
ahead
is
and
the
ask
time.
some questions in the chat box. You can put a little question box there. What cultural practices do y'all remember hearing about? I have one in mind that I'm gonna bring up. But what cultural practices do you have that you remember hearing that maybe your sisters went through or you went through to kind of usher you into your sensual or sexual being growing up?
I don't know, honestly. Tia said the way I was raised, it was having sex and not married, you're a sinner, and there's no need to talk about it if you're not married, which is crazy to me because I still need to be educated, which is very true. You still need to learn.
Exactly. So do I have to wait till I'm married to learn, or like what's up?
Yes, that is the thing. Like once you get married, it's a light bulb. Whoop, you're a freak and you know it all. You know what to do. You know how to move.
You know what? It's unfortunate in this area of life. Our parents really did let us down because it would have. I feel like we would have avoided a lot of pain, and we wouldn't have picked up as many traumas had we actually learned.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Sex is a powerful thing. And a lot of times, a lot of people, our generation, millennials, we misused it. And now we're at a point in life where you're not playing with it. We did a lot of playing with it. A lot of people played with it, didn't understand the stuff ahead that would come with it. Because when you connect with someone, you two are one, you know?
So someone says pull in one's flaps. Yes, we're doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, pull in off the.
But
you said
that ties into what I said about the man and pleasure. Listen.
Honestly, this flapping and whatnot, when I've seen
what
individuals, I've never understood it. I don't think it's appropriate. No one should look like that. That's just how I feel about it. I don't understand.
So I would say this. It's because growing up, I heard it. I did hear it, like hearing about it, like udonza, you know, your labia lips. And I didn't understand, like, well, why am I doing this? And then later on, it was like, well, women do it because once it's for pleasurable for the men, and also pleasurable for the women. And so then I did some little research, and it turns out that it's actually a cultural practice that started like around Western Africa, and Uganda, and Rwanda. So some of them still do it, and it does elongate your labial lips. And there are different camps that have different stories for it. So where I eventually landed with this is all of our vaginas, and by vagina, there's a difference between a vagina and a vulva. So your vagina is the canal where the baby comes out. The vulva is what's outside. Plenty of vuzi back and door vulva. That's not the vagina. So a lot of times we have those confused. So I want to make sure we have our terms correctly. So when I'm saying vagina, please know that I am talking about the inside where the baby comes out. And when I'm talking about the vulva, that's where the pubis mons is. That's where pene vuzi, pene my lips are. So my lips, they're going to look different, especially for most of my lips, they're going to look big like that. And so it is going to look like that. When you do pull them, they're going to get a little bigger. And most of my vulvas look like that. But because we don't spend time G-texting my vulvas, and we don't have like vulva parties, we don't know what different vulvas look like.
Why should we need to
or
have
what are they supposed to look like?
Yes, let's have some vulva parties.
It's a struggle.
So that you can know what other women look like, and you don't think something is wrong with your coochie or something's wrong with your vulva, even if you didn't pull your labias.
Mm.
I saw someone and they were so long. I was so afraid. I didn't understand what was going on. And if that's how you want to do it, sure. But some of it, I'm just like, how are you living?
Like when you say they were long.
They were long. Like dangling.
Yeah.
Well, African Play is asking what benefit does it have? And she says the Zimbabwean men said it grabs their manhood. That's how they get the pleasure, I guess.
That is what I have heard, and that is what I have read. I have not done research to see if it really does grab a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say it is. I would not demonize it. Say that it is genital mutilation, even though who had said it was, but then they did some African people did some research and were like, you know, then people who pierced their clit would be considered, you know, genital mutilation as well, if we're going to be considering cultural practices to do that. And so each person, I would say that this is neither a good nor bad thing at this point with this one. It's really to say, okay,
by choice.
By
choice?
That's where I was about to get to. So some of these things we didn't have choice with it. It was not something that was consensual. It was not something that we really fully had informed consent.
Right.
And so now it's like, okay, Sagachi, is this something that you did do? What do I do with that now? And what do I do with my body now about it? What are the emotions and feelings that are showing up about this practice? How do I feel about this practice now? What research and other educational forums can I begin to find out? Who can I ask? Like, what tetes or parents can I still ask about this? Because sometimes we had cultural things and then colonialism came in, wiped it out. And 2 generations later is, you know, it's what I should tell our body, but the actual intention of it, as you see people. And so but there's really not a sit down routine. When I
right.
My touch today, so must have Joe today, so she's not there, so she's not there, so she's not there, so and then you won't no one like it's going so but at this point it's just had been centered around men. So I would say you were about Chaco seems kind of Garanation Chaco, Tora Mira, Utarise, who not to I made I say Passy Papa.
See, I think my issue is that the tetes, because it's usually your tete, right? Your aunt, for those that don't speak Shona, tete is your father's sister. That's what we call tete. So tete, usually well, maybe not usually, but they don't sit you down to tell you what it is for. Right. So for me, with an inquiring mind, I'm like, why? And if
why are we doing?
You can't tell me why, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, and you know, I'm 38 years old. So that would have been like what? When I was around 10, 11, 12 years old, because they say it's before you get your period and that's when you're supposed to do all of that, right? But at that age, there was no Google.
No.
So I couldn't ask Google what's up, you know. And when you ask Tete, what is it for? You're basically questioning an elder. So that's frowned upon. You can't do that, right?
No.
So even up to this day, I'm just all I know is it's to pleasure the man. It grabs, like what African Play, to grab his manhood. That's the end of story. But I don't know what it would do for me.
Right.
Yeah, as much as, you know, of course, I would love to pleasure my partner, but I also want to know what it does for me, because in that, I want to get pleasure as well.
Yes, and that's when I wish they would have explained a little bit more about that, because now it's just centering Muno one. So then fast forward to 2023, it's like, okay, well, this happened already. So now in what ways can I now own my own body then? In what ways can I now own That's what they say another word. My own vulva.
Nancy.
Actually, I'm trying to,
Yeah,
my slang
it's
is
a
trying to
struggle.
escape me sometimes.
African Place says that some women are being brought back. Hansi, choice is not an option. Hansi mukadzi anodzoswa kumba in some marriages in 2023 when they don't have the elongated labia. So what?
So it's a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know in 2023 it was still. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised because I'm sure it's usually some outliers that are still adhering to it. So yeah, that's unfortunate to hear because then it's just like and so speaking of like solo pleasure or like pleasure, this is so what I'll talk about now. This is for people who either you're married or single or in between. It doesn't really matter because this is your journey and your own body. So we've already talked about like some of the cultural things that we've seen and heard about, and it seems like most of us we didn't really get a welcome in of like, this is womanhood and this is what you do, and you go to the river and they do all this type of things. We kind of learned on our own and had to figure it out, which is interesting because any other area of our lives we learn. We go to school, we get a coach, we read books, we watch podcasts, we do all these things, but when it comes to sex, it's like we'll figure it out. Really? You don't need no books.
How?
Things just go.
Where? When?
Like sometimes people have vaginisms and the penis cannot go in. Like you can't even put it in. Even tampons can't even go in. After you've waited your whole life, and now you
for
can't
that
even
moment.
FUCK.
Right.
So I always employ women and implore and invite women. Tangane we will, like I said earlier on, get a mirror in the chat. Let me know when's the last time you got a mirror. Can I mean me? When was the last time you got a mirror? And you look down there. How often have you done that? I know I wasn't doing it often. It was something that I was not. It's not something I was doing. It's like, that ain't my job. I'm not down there.
Listen, I want to see what the other person is seeing. So
you were on it. You were like, I don't want to teach out going on.
Yeah.
But listen, okay, I want to know, okay, how do you know you're having bad sex? You mentioned it when we started. You mentioned, having bad sex. How does one person know they're having bad sex if they've never had great sex? How do you know this is bad? How do you know it gets better?
So that is so subjective to what bad sex is. So before you even know, quote unquote, what bad sex is, do you know what you like? Is because a lot of times
lies, all lies.
Lying, faking.
What is it?
Lying and faking at the same time.
Lying and faking at the same time.
And it's for what?
I was about to say something else.
Xavier says, yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So Xavier, because I was teaching on Nakapawuri, kind of penis is him Kajmako, teaching which Nakapawuri. And so I encourage one, let's start exploring your own body. That's where the sensuality comes into place. So I see too. Session count uri wego was all that as my African women, we dance dombolo.
That's true.
You're moving your hips, you're moving your butt, and you're moving, your whole body, and that's part of being sensual.
Right.
You can start just dancing, because a lot of our traumas, are stored in the hips and also more body marco. So maybe why would I be talking about that is what I hear some people say.
True.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
people don't like to visit the past.
and I don't blame them. I don't blame it. I've united it.
Yeah.
I know what's what I teach him again.
Mm-mm.
Right. Forward thinking. We're moving forward. What happened in the past, I'm leaving that behind. It doesn't. And people think things that happened in the past don't affect you today.
Exactly.
That's what a lot of people think. It's honestly, it's until I went to therapy and I was like, hey, chat.
That is very true.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's just it's sad, but it is what it is.
So yes,
we're living, like you said, we're living with a lot of traumas, and some of them manifest when it comes to bedroom situations, or even not feeling, because you're feeling like you're being judged, especially for people who grew up in church.
Mm-hmm.
There was absolutely no way. There is no way, because the connection between sex and just in church, there's such a divide. If you start having conversations with people early on, a lot of things might have been avoided, and now that as we're growing up and you're learning with this is good for me, this is not good for me, and you can make a choice.
Yeah,
it's not just you just come here, you do it, and you go. It's just the 2 minutes of pleasure, and that's it, and that's not how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you bring up the church, because I'm actually hosting, right in North Carolina, I'm hosting an event called Freak Like Me, Healing for the Church Girl. So we'll explore how the church has impacted your identity and also your sexual theology.
I like that. Are you streaming? Because you can't just invite everybody who's here and we can't watch.
No, so because of the sacredness of it, we're not streaming. We want people to feel comfortable. So this time around, we're not streaming. It's going to be intimate and very, very sacred. A time for women to be free and share openly and honestly about my experiences, our niche, and how we impacted, sexuality, our sexual theology.
Xavier said, how do we know the trauma has manifested in the bedroom? What are some examples of it?
Oh, Xavier, that is a good question. So some examples, obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but it can be...
I'm reading. DJ Amanda said, oh my God. I
don't even know what that means. What's that mean? I don't know.
Pamberi nenyoro. That's what he said.
What does nenyoro mean? Oh,
unprotected sex. It means unprotected sex.
Thank you, Taffy, for cleaning it up for me.
I know. I had to think about that for a second, because it was that's not that. Yeah,
unprotected. Different. Okay, but how it can show up? Maybe you have issues with initiating sex, and you also know needs or maybe unotaka kufunga about chimwe chinhu zvakaitika kudhara, unotaka kufunga kuti handina kuwasha madishes, handina kunyora manotes.
You might need to translate for people who don't speak. We have a few. We have a people that don't speak Shona.
Okay, so it can. All right, I'm gonna be translating back and forth a little bit. So basically, it can show up as like having issues or being intimidated by asking for your needs and desires in the bedroom. Issues with initiating for sex, not being present in the moment.
Yeah. Present.
Being completely somewhere else, or completely disassociating. Like when you're starting to have sex, you're not even there in your body.
Yeah. Completely like it's a chore.
Yeah, because I just my personal trauma that you've had, because I do want to acknowledge, like, trigger warning here, some people's first time having sex was not consensual. And so, and they never talked about it or never shared with anybody. And that can also show up. So those are some of the ways, but it's other ways, and it varies from different person depending on where they are in life and how much work they have done.
And you know, a lot of us had that one relative who was always touching people that no one ever acknowledged. It's inappropriate. He's a rapist. It was just it was just a translation of, oh, this person just likes things. But they're liking the children.
That's how Uncle so-and-so does it. Yeah.
Right. It's just like stuff that was swept under the rug that would honestly, there are some people, it has manifested as an adult. They don't want to be touched by a man. Yeah. Because they were inappropriately touched as a young girl. And that child within them is still suffering from that.
That's a good one. Thank you for bringing that one up. Touch aversion is another one.
Yeah.
Y'all remember that commercial? Your uncle or something?
It was Uncle John.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That traumatized me. That commercial scared the shit out of me.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that commercial. I can hear it right now in my head. Like, what in the world?
Like the commercial was nonchalant, but those things were actually happening. In situations. I know, like, some of my cousins, like, they would, if we were somewhere, they would like, no one so, because it's like, we just can't trust some of these people because their habits are just not, you just end up in a situation that you're not supposed to be in. And a lot of our culture, even just anywhere, honestly, anywhere in the world, they hide that. That one relative that's touching everyone inappropriately.
Yes, for sure. They do, and they have. So
we have another question in here. Everybody's got questions today. I love this. Arguande says, so how do you start exploring your own body? Do you just buy toys and start exploring?
Yes, that's one way that you can do. And also, like I said before, you start off with the simple things. Dancing. Like, for me, that's one of my favorite things to do is put on a good Beuallah song, or whoever, Amara Brown, whoever you like, and just move those hips. And then do things that you show no fighting. Like, what did you like to do as a child? Like, start rediscovering who you really are, and getting in touch with your five senses. Lighting a candle and just sitting still. TV is not on. Radio is not on. YouTube is not on. It's just you in silence and this candle. So that's one way. And then earlier on, y'all saw me with the flower. You can explore your body with things that you have in your home. You can smell it. You can put this flower on your body and notice how it feels. Go very slow. Sometimes take your time. Stop rushing. Stop rushing. Take your time. Your hands, baby, your hands are free. You can use these hands as well. Polish our lotion in the morning. How do you put on lotion? How do y'all put on lotion in the morning? How much time are y'all spending?
I spend a lot of time. Listen, my friends.
Taffy's in there for an hour.
Ask my friends. Listen, watch the comments. Everybody who knows me, who's in the comments right now, they're about to say something about me lotioning right now. Listen, I take my time. I lotion every part of my body, my back, my thighs, everything. I do not walk out of that bathroom without each part of my body lotioned.
What about you, dog?
Listen, I do not spend as much time as Taffy does. I give it if I give it 15 minutes, I've done a great job. I've hit every spot. Because I I don't even know how. She spends a lot of time. Dr. Taffy is in there moisturizing her earlobes. Ain't nobody got time for that. I got to go.
I love to hear that.
Listen, my sister says Taffy doesn't miss a spot when lotioning. My friend says hours to just lotion, please. See, I told you, I take a long time. And then my other sister says, even at night, when going to bed, she takes forever. Fuck. I told
At
you.
night, when I take a shower at night, I don't lotion. I'll be honest, I don't lotion my body because I don't want the grease in the bed and whatnot. But sometimes, I don't know, if I'm feeling a little dry, then I will. But for the most part,
okay. Well, now you're about to
minutes.
lotion yourself because we're going to we're exploring the sensual side of yourself. So, Tino, I need you to start with that lotion and lotion your body slowly, okay? Find the sensual, Tino.
I will add an extra 5 minutes. I'll do my best.
But 15 is good, Tino. Like 15, that's pretty good. Because usually for me, it should be like 30 minutes, right. And I was in and out. And I didn't even. And then I would be out. So I was like that too. Okay. I was not taking my time. Y'all, this has been really like 2 years of me really dipping into the sensuality, going from my books from theory to practice. It's been the past 2 years where I've really got into it because I had to move through some deep grief, and I used sensuality and sexuality to move me out of that grief. And I wasn't even partnered, so I was single. So you don't have to have a boyfriend, an F-buddy, a husband. You don't have to have another person to be a sensual, sexual being. Like you can discover who do you wear by yourself, and then you can invite somebody else in when you are well informed about who you are. So yes, this week, for those of us who don't spend hours in the shower lotioning up, start with 5 minutes. You go take 5 minutes and just take your time. Pisa lotion pa mazamu, pa magaro, pa thighs, makumbo. Uchungo you say really gentle. Sing it the way that you would want your lover, partner, whomever to touch you. Iwewe, start touching yourself. First.
So someone, I think it's Edna, who said, would love from guys input on sex toys. However, the conversation around masturbation, I would advise not to introduce sex toys until one is aware of their bodies. So what do you feel about sex toys and, I guess, masturbation?
Ooh, yeah. So once again, it goes back to you. What are your comfortable levels with your own body and with sex toys? Do you feel like you're ready? And what do you consider sex toys? Because there are a lot of things that could be a sex toy. Like this could be a sex toy. I don't have to insert this. This is a roller, but I can use it in my masturbation. What do you consider masturbation? For me, masturbation goes beyond your genitals. Masturbation is a way of connecting with your body that can include your genitals, but doesn't have to include your genitals. So my practice and my work expands above the common things and what we usually and typically go to, which is usually narrow-minded. I expand you. So masturbation can include your genitals, and it also cannot include your genitals. And there are different types of toys. Now, toys, that is not my strong suit. I have people and friends that are more educated in that. So my knowledge is an informed knowledge, so meaning I have some knowledge, but I'm not like the sex toy expert. So everything really goes back to you being truthful and honest with yourself with where you are. So absolutely, you can start with sex toys. You don't have to insert them. You can just, if you have a vibrator, you can just use it around your body, just feeling that vibration, just noticing how does it feel all over your body, and just seeing like, okay, I like that vibration, playing with the different sounds, playing with the different what do you call it, not temperature, but the different levels. There we go, the different levels of it, before you insert. So yeah, there are definitely levels to this that I would, especially if you've never tried toys before, then we would definitely level you up. I would introduce you to them. We would go to the store together if you're comfortable. We'll look around, have somebody, you know, who works at the store help you to choose some toys that are, you know, easy to start off with. And then if you're more experienced, then, you know, you still want to take your time. So 1, know yourself, be honest about it. 2, sex toys can look very different. And 3, trust yourself and where you are. You don't have to rush. You don't have to rush. You got time.
Oh my goodness, guys.
I mean, continuing with the sex toys conversation, right? What do you think, or what's your opinion when it comes to bringing sex toys into your bedroom with your partner, right? Because and what sex toy do you think would be comfortable for the other man? Because, I mean, if I'm walking in there with, you know, my 12-inch, you know what I'm saying?
Strap on, baby.
My man is not going to be comfortable with that, right? So what's your opinion when it comes to bringing sex toys and how would one introduce them into the bedroom?
So I am pro sex toys. Once again, it goes beyond the regular stuff, y'all. So you don't always have to stick to dildos, strap-ons, things that you insert, but you can be very playful. Sex is playful. You can be playful. So this is a sex toy. I wish I had my Waterberg wheel, but I don't have it with me right now. But that's like part of my sex toy. It doesn't have to go in, but it goes around. Your body's a canvas. So you just don't go to the penis and the vulva and the vagina, but your whole entire body is a sex organ. And so your household items, we call them pervertibles, also can be used as sex toys. And so consent is a big thing. So you don't want to just bring out a strap. Hey, baby, let's try this out. Like, no. You want to be able to give people consent to be able to say yes or no. So communication, conscious, erotic, honest communication. Asking your baby, well, what are your thoughts on sex toys? What do you think? What do you want our sex life to look like? What do you want to experience in the bed? What type of experiences do you want to have? What type of feelings do you want to feel, or sensations you want to experience while we're having penetrative sex? Because once again, sex goes beyond penetration.
Right.
Wow.
Flawless Tracks here says, sorry, Tino.
No, go ahead.
Tracks says, only men intimidated by sex toys are men that don't know how to please a woman.
Yeah, it's a fine line, to be honest. I feel like it's a fine line because some people are just not accepting of a sex toy. Imagine you're in your bedroom and your woman brings you a 12-inch. What do you do? Guys, those conversations, you have to have those conversations beforehand before you start bringing, you know, there's so many things, but you have to have the conversation, like you said, so everyone's comfortable. It's a fine line. I don't think it's necessarily intimidation, because even sometimes I have a friend who's really into sex toys. Really, like, she has a bag of sex toys, like a huge bag. And I looked at her one day and I said, Miss Ma'am, with all these things that you have, is a man still able to satisfy you? She said no. When they are done, she has to go and finish off, because that's how invested she is in her sex toys. And it's a fine line. Those conversations, whether someone is comfortable, you know, some people would be offended if you went off and finished by yourself, and some people would be like, yeah, that's your vibe, you know. So it's a fine line. But guys, these conversations, it's 8:30.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we need a part 2.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
We need a part 2. We will because there's no way that we're not even halfway into what we want to discuss.
No, we have a lot more topics to discuss.
We're not halfway in, and I'm like, we will live here all night. So please, I beg of you, can we have a part 2? Even
we might need part 2, part 3, part 4. Let's just make this a whole series at this point. When are we doing this again, Beaullah?
That's honestly, we need. There's no way. When are you? We are gonna talk.
And it has to be ASAP.
Next week, the following week. Let's do it as a series.
Where I think.
Let's not
I'm
give her
looking at our calendar. I think we're open next week.
Let's not give her pressure right now. Get back to us with her schedule.
Look at my own calendar.
We're putting pressure right now.
So, but there's so much of it, and we usually like to keep, our talks, our interviews a certain time because, people always have to go, and we want everyone to get everything that you're saying. We don't want to rush you. So we need a part 2, and if we need a part 3, we are begging. And the way we appreciate you giving us your time, we are beyond appreciative of this time.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to cut this short, and we need a part 2. There's no way, because I'm telling you right now, my wheels are going. We just got
so many questions.
Right. We just got to masturbation and sex toys. We have so many things. We haven't even gotten to the other parts. So what do we do?
I know. We got to stay on track next time. So part 2 after my event. So my event is November 11th. So probably during Thanksgiving while everybody's eating some turkey.
That's fine.
Hey, everybody will be home.
Exactly.
That's when people will be home relaxing. So it's perfect.
Around that
it's
time,
perfect.
I'll text you. But I did want to say about before we leave, I did want to touch on the masturbation and the toys and the satisfaction, because I do want to clear some things. I don't want to blame the toys for the lack of satisfaction. That's when it goes back to individual people, what it is that they like, what it is that they're looking for. Because sometimes there's a vision and impression of sex that we have that is not our own. It's something that we either think or feel like we have to show up in a certain way. So sex toys only enhance. They're not replacing anybody. They're not taking the place of anybody. They're not doing any of that. Just only an enhancement that you can add on. And yes, you don't pull out a 12-inch trap. You do have to have a conversation with that person, especially if you're partnered, and discuss interests, desires, realizing if you're actually sexually compatible and how to negotiate sex. So a lot of times we don't know how to negotiate sex. So like I said, sex toys are just an additive of what we can use in our sexual repertoire, and it's not limited to things that we use for our genitals. And so I would have some questions for your friend, honestly, some follow-up questions about that, other than just saying, oh, it's a sex toy that's causing her to be unsatisfied. Maybe she's not enjoying the sex that she's having with a partner. And then that's like another conversation of like, well, what would make sex more enjoyable for you?
Maybe she needs to come on the part 2.
Yeah. Oh, she does.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest it. Jump on here and have the conversation and understand more of what's happening with you. Because she has a whole bag. I'm not just saying, a small bag. She has a whole bag of so many things. So what's going on? Do you really like these things, or are they there as something else? Like you said, maybe it's the person's not compatible to her. Maybe she's just not.
I don't know, because we all have bags of stuff. So, that's just something that so I don't want to yuck her young, because there's nothing wrong with sex toys. It's not a good or bad when it comes to sex toys. It's a preference. And in this space, I encourage people to make choices from a grounded space, a soulful place, and a place of pleasure. And so anything that brings you pleasure is not causing harm to you or somebody else, I welcome it. So your bag of sex toys, let's have fun with it. Like, let's even expand on that. Like, bring your bag of sex toys.
Right.
Like I said, that looks differently for different people.
That is true. I think Flawless Text was commenting on. He says it's not consent if it's a surprise. I guess.
No,
You're
not
right.
the same.
That's what Tino was saying, that you got to have a conversation before bringing the toys into the bedroom, because you can't just, surprise
Hey,
somebody with
I got
with a
something
12
new.
inch something in there, and you can't do
Wait,
that.
were you the one that brought a 12-inch strap
Oh,
on or something?
not me.
Oh.
Tino, did I miss?
Girl, you didn't miss nothing. If I did
This
anything
was
like
awesome,
that,
y'all.
Yes, thank
Lord.
you all for coming and showing
Yes.
up.
Thank
Thank you
you so
so
much,
much. Thank
everybody.
you.
This
All
was
right.
amazing. Watch this space for part 2. We'll post a flyer once we settle on an actual date and time. So watch this space. We'll share it with all of you. Just keep coming back to our Instagram page. We have a Facebook page. We have YouTube. If you
Yes.
missed our previous shows, they're all on our YouTube.
Website.
This one will be on our YouTube. We'll try to get it up there today, but
It's okay.
life be lifing sometimes, so but please follow our YouTube page, Zim Ladies Roundtable. Comment on our videos so we know you're watching, and let us know what other questions you have for Beaullah or Fungi, right?
Exactly.
Fungi or Fungi. Let us know what other questions you have. Maybe, we can have her prepare a little something for you guys next time, if there's, so she can have these questions prior to our next conversation. You can inbox us here, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. But like and share, and thank you so much, Beaullah, for all of this. This was
Yes. Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you.
everybody has enjoyed this. We still have lots of questions, so I can't wait for part 2. Maybe part 3, because I'm sure we'll have even more questions after part 2.
Questions, biases that we need to get away from. We got
Everything.
so many things that we need. We are still learning.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we wanna explore. We want to be satisfied.
Absolutely.
And we want to live a long life being satisfied.
Yes.
So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night. God be with you.
Bye, y'all.
Catch you later.
RDUsexology.com. Check me out.
Yes.
I'm accepting new clients.
Yes. Yes. We'll put that. We'll add the information on the live.
Yes,
so
and we'll add it to our YouTube. We'll put your link on our YouTube page as well. So everybody, you can go to YouTube and get that link as well. Follow Beaullah. What's your Instagram, Beaullah?
It's RDU Sexology.
RDU Sexology. Book her. She does events. She does personal, one-on-one consultations as well. I mean, get your sex life together, y'all.
Come through. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have a good night. Bye-bye.